Well, Emma, welcome to the Farm Traveler podcast. I have to say, I feel like I feel like you're actually like the actual farm traveler.
At, Valid.
Yeah, I mean, you like travel around. You've gone all over the place. I feel like a poser with the name Farm Traveler, so I feel like you are legit a farm traveler.
Yeah, I mean, you might have to get out of the house a little more to beat me, You
I
can
know. I need to
claim
start
to fame.
documenting it the way you do. Yeah, you're all over Instagram, Facebook, everything. Weren't you in Australia a year ago or something farming?
Yeah, so I went to Australia after harvest just to help a family farm down there for a month or so. I just wanted
Hmm.
the experience, so I found some friends that needed help, and I went down there and did that for a little bit. So that was really fun. That's about the farthest that I have gone.
That's still pretty far. That's awesome. So like what's your background in farming? How did you get into it? Because I know you are so into it when it comes to farming, and I love following you on Instagram, like just kind of how you get into the weeds of like row cropping and everything. Like how did you get started?
Yeah, so I don't know. I wasn't raised on a family farm, but I was raised around agriculture, so I've always been kind of familiar with it. Like my grandparents had a dairy in Wisconsin when I was a kid, and we were on that for a little while. And then when my mom got remarried, she married a farm manager in southern Idaho, and we grew up out
Hmm.
of town, so we had like a garden and some backyard steers and stuff like that that we'd put in the freezer. And the community was really ag centered. And then I was in FFA in high school, and I was doing a job with the university extension office in town. So I was working on research and development, cover crop stuff, just basically an assistant to pulling data. I was
Hmm.
doing the dirty work behind that. And then I got into college and I started as a horticulture major because I thought I'd love it. And then I found all these different things and new networks and different people that I met through college. And I kind of just switched to general agriculture instead. And then I started working in seed production for sugar snap peas. So the owner, well, the guy that invented sugar snap peas was my boss's grandpa when I worked in Idaho. So that was pretty
Oh,
cool.
cool.
But I just basically did the pre-production. I helped with the pre-production plant breeding side of things. So I didn't do any of the plant breeding. I just did like the roguing in the fields that you have to make sure like every single seed that doesn't belong there is out before we send it to commercialized plots
Hmm.
because that was a big issue. And that was really fun. So I did a lot of the R&D on that side. And then after I started Ag with Emma, that was in 2021 when I started my social media pages. I started that because my grandparents were like, okay, what the heck are you doing at work? And I was starting to share ag facts on my personal Instagram because I was enrolled in school as an agriculture major, and I was like, I'm learning all these things because I knew about agriculture, but I didn't know everything. So I was learning like
Hmm.
facts about GMOs and plant science and all this stuff, and I thought it was cool. So it was National Ag Month, and that's when I started sharing facts in 2021 on my personal story. And then I didn't want to be annoying to my friends and family, so I started another Instagram story or Instagram page, and that's when Ag with Emma started. So it really just started because I wanted to share facts with my friends and family about agriculture. I genuinely did not know there was other ag influencers. I didn't even want to be an ag influencer. I was like, I don't know if there's other people doing this, but more people need to.
Hmm.
So that's why I started. And then it just gradually like built up from there. And I started traveling because I got done with college in 2021 as well. I worked the rest of that summer in seed production and helping the college that I just attended with hay for the summer. And then after that, I kind of just like did whatever I wanted to. And now I'm in North Dakota.
That's awesome. That's quite a road that kind of got you here. And I mean, how does that feel like to go from somebody not super duper involved in agriculture when you were growing up to, I mean, I would say you're like one of the staples in farming social media. Like, that's such a cool road. Like, how does that feel?
It's really odd because I never think of myself like that. It's like I feel like I'm the back burner stove name for sure, which is still cool. It's like it's cool that people consider me as a source of reliable information about the ag industry. Like there's people that ask a lot of deep questions when it comes to how is this affecting the industry? Like where do you see yourself going with this kind of thing? So that's not intimidating, but it's kind of like humbling, I guess,
Hmm.
to go from just a girl that didn't know like what a GMO was to like sharing facts about GMOs with all these people and if I get something wrong, like that's on me, like that is on me. So it's a lot of pressure sometimes, but I do appreciate the journey and all of the connections that it's brought me, and just the fact that it's done something that I never imagined it would have done.
That's cool. I really like that the humbling thing we're talking about because like agriculture is one of those industries where there's so much going on. There's so many different disciplines, and it's like people would look for you and like, hey, you know what? She probably knows everything about aquaculture. She probably knows everything about GMO. She probably knows everything about timber farming. And it's like, wait, like agriculture is much more broad than that. So I'm sure that is a lot of pressure, but I follow like all these as a podcaster. I follow all these like social media people that are like, hey, here's what you should do to like share your story. And they're like, your audience might look to you as an expert, but as long as you're like one step ahead of them and you're trying to figure out the answers, like that's good enough. And I always try to go back to that when somebody asks me like a question I don't really know the answer to.
Yeah, I agree with that because it is hard to remember, like, I don't need to know everything, but
Hmm.
it is also easy to forget that you are in a position of trusted information, even though, like, I don't have a bunch of degrees, I don't have a bunch of certifications or, like, 20 plus years of experience, but I'm trying, and that's what counts, I think, with content creation. And it's when you're sharing your story, it's more about making it personable and relatable. And I always
Hmm.
tell people when they're starting in social media, like if you want to share on social media and if you want it to go somewhere, it needs to be about your story and not just about the industry because anyone can share an ag fact, but no one else shares your story. So it's like that's what you need to focus on. And that's what I've always tried to focus on.
Yeah, that's true. Because I mean, like, there are so many corn farms out there, apple farms, whatever. But yeah, it's like kind of like your impact on it, and like kind of I don't know, like your personal, like your brand, kind of like your brand combined with like that crop and all that stuff. Yeah, I think that's cool because like no two farms are alike. So like what you might bring to the table plus your family history is gonna be different than like the farm down the road, and people want to learn just as much about you as they do crops, which I think is cool. And I mean, yeah, like you were saying, you're kind of getting there when it comes to like building up all that experience. Do you have any like super duper impactful moments those first few years farming that kind of really stick to you?
I think it will always stick to me how many people were willing to help me out. The people that
Mm,
weren't crazy about being in front of the camera or sharing that side of themselves, but the people that understood my goals and my purpose that could see it and they were like, oh yeah, you need to do this because I know you're going to go places with this. And just the people that instilled that confidence in me from the beginning. Like the people that taught me how to drive a tractor the first time, the people that let
mm,
me come run on Harvest Crew, the people that let me come to their farms to video them, the people that let me, travel across the ocean to go and work on their farms without even knowing me. And I think that that will always make an impact on me. And that's the person that I try to be now that I've had, it's just like what you put in is what you give kind of thing. So that's really set an example for me. And like, there's just been a lot of little moments of people helping me along the way that I always remember. It's very heartwarming to think about all of the people that have helped me get to where I am.
that's amazing. And I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of added pressure there when you're driving a tractor, when you're harvesting, because like if you mess something up, like you're impacting their bottom line. So the fact that they're like trusting you with that speaks volumes, and that's really cool. That not only that they like are helping you out, but they're probably like, hey, this is somebody that wants to learn what we're doing, how we're doing it. This is awesome. Let's help her out as much as we can.
Yeah, I've definitely caused my fair share of thousands of dollars of damage. But that just comes with the game we play with the ag industry. But yeah, it's definitely there's a lot of people that are willing to take a chance on you,
Mhm.
and I think that I've just been very blessed to be able to find those people that have taken a chance on me.
That's awesome. And I can imagine like years down the road when you've got your own farm, you're an expert. Are you going to do the same thing? Help somebody come up the same way? Like give them the opportunity to mess things up and learn?
Oh, for sure. And I try to like I don't know how to explain it. But I don't know where I'm gonna end up yet, but I know that along the way I can definitely help others like start climbing their way up too because, climbs aren't always uphill, it's gonna be like this. So as
Oh,
long as
yeah.
you can help someone on their way. But hopefully eventually when if I ever have my own farm or like if I do something to that extent and I can hire people and I can, teach people and let them fail and let them grow in the same space, like I think
Mhm.
that's very powerful.
Yeah, do you have like an as you're traveling around helping people farming, do you have like an end goal or even like a, 10, 15, 20 year goal?
So I don't think I'd get into like the row crop, big production just because it's so out of whack right now. And
Hmm.
I've thought about it. I've thought about renting ground and like, doing the thing. And I might get there one day, like if that's the path that fits. But I've also thought about smaller scale stuff. So I'd really like to do like the cut flower thing. I think that would be really cool and
Yeah.
also much more manageable. Especially like I want kids someday. Like I want to have that kind of lifestyle. And it's great to raise kids on a farm. But also if that's not in the attainable, like if the situation doesn't fit for that, like I'd really like to get into something smaller that I could manage with like myself and like one or two people. Because farming is a lot of work and that is something that I'd want to be like on board with my partner about and like, just on the same page. Like I don't want to farm by myself and I would want to raise kids in some kind of agricultural sense. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, but we'll just see how it goes.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure I feel like when you're trying to start your own farm, especially, if you're married, if you're in a relationship, if you got kids, like there's a lot of cogs in there and you don't want to mess it up because we always hear that working with family is difficult. But I mean, really, I feel like farming families have it down to a pat. Usually, 9 times
Yeah,
out of 10, as
hopefully.
opposed to like normal family
Hopefully. It
businesses.
just depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, so I kind of want to get in the weeds with you about row crops because it always fascinates me. It's one of those subjects that I don't know a ton about, but I want to ask you about the scale of it. Like when you are row cropping hundreds, if not thousands, of acres of corn, wheat, soybeans, like what all goes into that when you have such a large scale of a crop to plant and the harvest?
I think it's more of a question of what doesn't go into it because it's so. But basically, it is so much. I don't even. It is a lot. So when I first started, my understanding of row crop and just farming in general was research and development, and I thought that was a big deal. And then we got into custom harvest, and custom harvest is just a bite off of what actually goes into farming. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Like custom harvest, when you're traveling from farm to farm helping farmers that don't have their own harvest equipment, you're just part of the harvest scope. So
Mm.
just on the harvest crew, we had two or three combines. We had a grain cart, semis, and we also had to, moving campers and all that stuff. So just on the equipment side alone, there's that. And then on the hours end, we would work from probably 7 a.m. to at least 10 p.m. every day that we could. And sometimes it was even later than that, depending on what the weather was doing. And then on the other aspect of that, there's also the weather. Like that's something that definitely, rain makes or breaks you in agriculture, in any industry, like any side of the ag industry. So then there's labor, weather, equipment, there's cost of inputs, there's fertilizer, there's seed, there's like thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, depending on the size of your operation, goes into a crop every year. And I think a lot of people, like including myself, forget that because it starts like we're in August right now, and
Hmm.
2026 is already being planned for. Like, there's fertilizer being paid for, there's seed being bought, there's contracts being written for crops that are coming off the fields right now. And last fall there's contracts being made for crops that are coming off the field right now. So when we think about all of the things that go into it and all of the trust and faith you have to put your crop in the ground and get something out to hopefully make a paycheck, depending on all these other variables and factors, it's just insane. So, roundabout way of answering, there's a lot of details that go into it, but we can definitely dive into the specifics some more.
Yeah, so I mentioned this a ton on the show, but I love watching Clarkson's Farm because it does a great job showcasing this. Like how impactful the weather is, how perfectly timed you have to harvest the crop, how you're doing at 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Like I think it's a great illustration and very entertaining to kind of see how it's really done. Um, and I wish I would have sent you this beforehand. There was a video a while ago, I think by How Farming Works, the dude that has that Instagram, and he was showcasing like I think some not subsidies, but he got a check from the government on like he got paid like $50,000 because he lost a crop. Have you seen the video I'm talking about?
I think I have. I definitely know like the what you're talking about though, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was talking about it because somebody mentioned like there was somebody to comment and like, hey, $50,000 seems like a lot from the government. He was like, well, look, like we put in like we bought like $1 million worth of seed. We were going to sell it for this much, and honestly, like it's only about $10,000 more than we would have made or something. Like it's not that much, especially when you're talking about like the scale of agriculture. Because yeah, people don't understand that you're paying $1 million for seeds, 500 grand maybe for fertilizer or whatever. Like the scale of it is crazy, and of course, at the end of the day, you're not making a whole lot of money either.
Yeah, at the end of the day, so like there's crop being pulled off the field right now, and you'll probably make, I don't know. It all really depends on the price of crop,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
like everything right now is garbage prices. So the
Really.
price of wheat keeps going down, the price of corn keeps going down. Cattle are doing really good right now, but when cattle do good, the crops aren't doing good. So it's a lot of mumbo jumbo, and it's just no one can ever win. And then input prices are high, so they've stayed high. And I don't know the exact prices of everything right now because I don't pay attention to that side of things. I'm more on the agronomy side of things now.
Hmm.
But I think wheat is in like $5 range, and it has been for a while. Corn's probably around that area. So we all got really used to having it really good for a couple of years, and then just kind of like boom right on its face. But you'll probably, it really depends on how much, where you're growing it, what you're growing. But I think there's a couple farmers around here, maybe. So if the crop is coming off at like 50 bushels an acre for wheat, let's just say that's pretty average around here. And it's $5 a bushel. So that's, let me just calculate this really quick. 50 bushels an acre times five. That's $250 an acre.
Mm.
So if you have a 40-acre field, you're going to make $10,000 off that 40-acre field. And that's not net, that's just total.
Yeah.
And then if you, let's say, seed costs like, I don't know, it all costs so much that it's crazy how much you don't get out of it. It's like, oh, farmers are making all this money. But then the money that you do make gets poured back into the operation to do equipment upgrades and storage and trucking and all of the things that come after that. So,
Yeah, you have a lot of it go back into the business, which most businesses do. But I mean, sometimes they have like more of a profit margin when farming is. What there's this Paul Harvey quote or something where it's like the farmer is the only person that sells. I can't remember the quote. I need to look it up. I'll look it up for the intro of this. But
okay.
essentially, it's like the farmer doesn't set the price, and they're selling everything like usually at a loss because they can't control the prices at all.
Yeah.
Um, what is something you can do, like if the price of it is tanking and you've still yet to harvest it, what can you do? I mean, what are the best options there?
So if the price is tanking, sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you have to sell it, but most farmers will try to gauge the markets and like, okay, we're going to lock in a contract at this price because that is our break even. And sometimes like you just have to lock in at the break even and not at a profit. But a lot of guys will hold on and try to see if it will raise a little bit more to gain a profit off of it. But if it doesn't, it can start sinking again. And then they're stuck in this position where it's like, okay, well, we have to sell, we have to do something else. So there's a lot of guys up here, especially we use grain bags, and that provides a storage option that's pretty solid for like, I don't know, maybe a year or two. And a lot of guys will put it in the grain bag and just try to forget about it. Like as long as you have enough money to keep the lights on kind of deal and pay your bills, like you don't have to sell like you have to sell your grain when you need to pay the bills basically. Like if you're buying a new piece of equipment, you're going to have to sell something that you grew, right? So if you have bills to pay and you don't have the money in the account, like you're gonna have to sell some grain. But like a lot of guys will have the storage that they can hold on to it until the prices are better. So that's definitely the most common option is like, okay, I'm gonna hold on to it, or they just keep like you just have to watch it and lock in a contract when it's at a good price. So that's kind of how they play that. I think I have never had to do it, so I don't know all of the ins and outs about it. I hate looking at markets because it's so confusing. And when everyone starts talking about it on X and like just around me, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So that is,
Yeah.
to my understanding, when you have to pay the bills, you sell the grain. You can hold on to it as long as you can, especially up here because, we're like poverty farmers, right? Like we grow the poverty grass as cash crop up here. That's what people call wheat in the Midwest. It's poverty grass or whatever.
Okay, didn't know
Um,
that.
yeah, so poverty grass is our cash crop, and then we grow some corn, some sunflowers, and sunflowers are like the cash crop up here. They're worth a lot of money, especially for growing confectioners. So there's confectioners and oil sunflowers. I'm getting off on a tangent right now, but
No, this is perfect. This is
yeah.
perfect.
So there's confectioner and oil sunflowers, and you got to haul them a little bit of a ways. So that also comes out of your net profit. Like you're hauling stuff further to the elevator. Some guys aren't going to want to, cut into that. So it all just depends on your tolerance for where you have to haul it, who you're contracting with, who you're selling it to, their availability, their market, margins, all the things, their basis, and everything.
Now, I know to prevent kind of this issue of, if one crop goes bad, you don't have an income. Like, I know a lot of farmers diversify. Like, what if you're growing just wheat? What would be a good safe crop to grow in addition to that?
So a lot of guys' rotation up here looks like so there's a lot of spring wheat grown up here, but you can also grow durum, you can grow sunflowers, corn,
Mm,
pulse crops like lentils or chickpeas. You can grow a lot of guys will put hay in, but that's not really, a grain. A lot of guys grow canola. There's some millet, mostly for hay. They also grow oats. And then what else? There's some winter wheat, and then there's some flax, and yeah, not a lot of soybeans on this side of the state, but a lot of
mm,
soybeans on the other side of the state because we don't get the moisture and we're not irrigated. So,
gotcha. Okay, and let's say like you switch up last minute and you plant chickpeas because maybe the market's really good for it. What like when you're harvesting that, is the equipment pretty compatible, or do you have to have a custom harvester come in? Like, how would that work out?
so most of the crops grown up here are harvested with a combine. The only difference is going to be between your headers, but
Mm,
all like lentils, chickpeas, wheat, oats, basically all the small grains that grow kind of shorter to the ground and just have something that needs to be shelled out. So like peas are harvested with a combine. The only difference inside, so there's a combine with a draper header, and it's going to have a cutting bar on the front that's going to cut the crop off the ground, and then it's going to have a draper belt that kind of sucks it into the middle in the feeder house, and then the
hmm.
feeder house is going to suck it up into the combine, and it's going to go into this big rotor, and the rotor is going to beat it, and that's when it comes out of the shells. So like
Okay.
wheat, that's where it kind of like beats it out a little bit, and like chickpeas, it kind of just like breaks stuff up. And then where the difference in your grains are going to be is in the concave that is around the rotor. So the rotor is a big spinning cylinder basically, and it's spinning this way. And then your concave is going to be right here on the rotor. And your concaves you can change in and out. So your concaves are going to have different size bars and holes and grates and stuff like that based on the crop size and like the seed that's coming out of the crop that you're harvesting. So that's what changes between like say chickpeas and wheat because they're such different sizing. So like chickpeas, you're gonna have this, and wheat's just like a small little kernel. And chickpeas are also in pods, and then wheat is in its little individual shells basically. And
Hmm.
then after it goes through the rotor, like rotor and concave, then it's gonna hit the sieve, and then it's gonna like sort out the rest of the trash and kind of like shake out, and then go into the hopper. So that's the only thing that really changes. And then with corn and sunflowers, you're going to have the header change. So instead of the draper belt with a cutter bar, you're going to have like a corn head. It's going to go on each row. But when you have fields that were planted with an air seeder with really close spacing, that's when you don't need a row head.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And I'll tell you what. What also really helped all this make sense, like I'm visualizing it while you're talking it. I really started playing Farming Sim this year, and it's been really fun to like kind of see how everything works because it's really well detailed. And so
Yes.
you were talking about the combines and everything. I'm like, okay, I saw this here, I saw this there. So yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that. And speaking about the combines, when the trash goes out the back, um, can you like what all goes into that? Can you use that for like you? I know some people use it for like different byproducts, but when you sell that, do you kind of factor that into how much you're going to get for the crop, or is that just kind of like an extra cost, or I mean like an extra profit that you plan for?
So with the, are you talking like baling it?
Yeah, kind of bailing it afterwards. Yeah.
So a lot of the crops up here, like a lot of people drop straw and they leave it. So we are in an area
Mm.
where we do a lot of no-till and we're trying to build up more organic matter. So that trash
Mm.
that's getting shot out the back of the combine, we're just going to leave in the field most of the time. A couple guys will bale it for straw, and a couple guys will make corn stalk bales. But the rest of the bales we haven't really done a lot with because there is so much no-till. People really
Mm.
want that like sitting over their field as insulation and like snow cover and all that because it's gonna like help that snow really stick onto the field. Because Western North Dakota we run a lot, like I said a couple times, but it's a lot of no-till. So in the spring we're running hoe drills and disc drills, and those just barely like they're not like we don't pre-till the field and we don't like rip it up after we only rip stuff up when it's new breaking or when there's like really big issues or if it's like super
Mm.
muddy or something to help dry it out, but that's only in certain spots. So when we go through in the spring with the hoe drills and the disc drills, it's just gonna barely like go under all of that trash that was blown out of the combine to just place that seed right there, and it's kind of gonna leave a little bit of space for that seed to pop up. But that's what we do with our practices up here because everything that gets shot out of the combine is just adding nutrients and texture and profiling to that topsoil, and we really need a lot of that because of how the wind blows up here. So the more
Mm.
trash the wind is blowing, the less topsoil the wind is blowing. So it also just helps the like you can see a field that was disked versus a field that just was left alone after harvest in the winter, and you can see how much snow sticks to the one that doesn't was not tilled versus the one that was. So I've seen that a couple times. A couple guys have taken drone videos of it and like posted it on TikTok, and I just thought that was really cool. I'm not really an anti-tillage or a pro-tillage person. I'm just like whatever works for the area and the soil type,
Mm.
but it is cool to see that in action up here.
No, that's cool. Yeah, you've seen that work. Like, I mean, clearly benefit the crops and what they're growing. I didn't think about it being like super windy up there, and that really helping prevent not only the seeds from blowing away, but also like the dirt and the nutrients not from going away. If you are so if you're planning that way and not planning it as deep, do you have to get like brand new equipment or like how does that work?
So the maintenance mostly okay, hoe drills, they have it's I like to think of hoe drills like a shovel, like a kind of a
Mm.
scoop arm, and they're gonna go further into the ground and then they're gonna plant that seed in like a we have Dutch openers, so it's a double row that plants right next to each other. But then on disc drills, those need a lot more maintenance because it is a big disc. So it's probably like a 15-inch wide disc that sits on that air seeder. It's constantly rolling through the ground and rolling through all this trash. And we're still seeding things at an okay depth. But it's just like the way that it's getting sliced into the ground. So those hoe drills are going to have a lot less maintenance just because of the way that they're built. And then this drill, since it's such a skinny, it's a skinny little disc and it's just slicing, a path for the rest of that equipment to follow through in the row.
Hmm.
And those wear out really quick. So there's a lot of wear and tear on disc drills. And then on hoe drills, there's not as much. So a lot of guys will just rebuild their drills when it comes time. I don't know how many acres you can put on a drill before it needs a rebuild. They kind of just watch for wear and tear. There's a lot of like pins and bolts and screws and things holding it together that get loose from just rattling around and that disc wearing down. So that is kind of the deal on those. A lot of people will just rebuild their disc though.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. And at any point, like, do you have to, maybe the trash gets too thick on it, like maybe it didn't break down over time as quickly. Do you ever have to go through and slightly plow it a little bit before you plant, or is there any like upkeep whenever you're just keeping the trash on top?
Yeah, so the biggest problem we see with the trash is the wind blowing it all into one spot. And
Mm.
then those are such small areas, though, that the farmer kind of just like, well, it is what it is. And they'll try to get through it with the drill, but I've seen it. So this spring I was like crop scouting. I was on a four-wheeler through basically every field that we scout for, like helping farmers look at their crop emergence and stuff like that. Most of the time, it's such a small area that it's not too big of a problem, but there are areas with a lot of trash that didn't emerge good. So for example, we had a farmer, he had a problem with his drill and the disc wasn't pushing deep enough into the wheat stubble and all of the stuff that was on top, like you're talking about. And his emergence didn't look good, and then his like that will cause problems with the yield, that will cause problems with everything else. So you really have to make sure that you're paying attention to all the details on your drill, just to make sure that all of that is going to be okay. Because if you're cutting deep enough into the soil like that, it's going to come up, because by the springtime, like there's enough moisture hopefully that that trash is kind of broken down. Like you'll see a lot of fields with corn stubble that look really iffy, because corn trash is a lot bigger than wheat trash, right? So corn, you got like the leaves, you got cobs everywhere, you got big old stalks and everything like that. And sometimes when we're looking at those fields, it's like, oh, this does not look good. But then it comes over. So it's just like a matter of waiting and being patient with it. But sometimes, yes, there are areas that are way too heavy on trash piles, or there's an area that the disc got really plugged up with trash that they were just like, screw this, and they pulled out, turned around, and put it back in. So there's going to be some skips some places, and there's going to be some patches, but that just is kind of the name of the game. If it's less than like a football field size, they're like, meh. So.
Okay. All right. So speaking of equipment, I thought of something. I know when it comes to like John Deere and big tractors, like I know the right to repair thing has kind of been an issue in years past. Like the dealerships don't want you fixing the equipment after you buy it. Does the same thing apply to implements? Like whether it's an air seeder or a drill or whatever, do you have that kind of the right to repair issue going on with that equipment as well, or no?
So I'm not really sure of the right to repair. I'm pretty sure that's just like there's more things being put in place that makes it harder to repair on your own. So there's not necessarily things that are like the dealers aren't like, you can't fix this at all, but there's more computer programming, more technology that's like, okay, we can't really fix this without a dealer. And that's more of the issue. And then on the implement side of things, when we're doing like upgrades and we're putting things on the drill, like that's just aftermarket at that point. And, like once you buy it, it's yours, you know. So if you're renting it, that's probably a no-no. But if like your drill is yours, you can make whatever modifications you want to it. Like they can't really prevent you from doing that. And there is less tech as of right now on implements like tillage tools and air seeders and other things that we use in the field.
Gotcha. Is there any sort of like new or like kind of developing technology that you've used and you've enjoyed? Like, have you used any of like the self-driving tractor stuff?
Yeah, so John Deere has actually partnered with me a couple times to bring me out and look at their new equipment and stuff like that. So I've been in the self-driving tractors. Those are really interesting, and they're not for everybody for sure. But they are definitely really handy. Like if you have a labor problem, like we were talking about earlier, that's going to be really handy. They're still working out some kinks and everything like that with like if the dust flies when you're stopping at the end of the row and the wind is blowing towards the tractor, like if that dust gets on the sensors, it stops really abruptly. And I've been in the cab while it does that. But then it'll like recalibrate and just like keep going. And it's not like too big of a holdup, and it's still probably more effective than having, you know, a lack of labor issue. But there are still like some issues with it, but there are a lot more tractors being adopted into operations because like we need to start running these things to get them really fine-tuned. So there's a lot of people with more open minds that have been using that equipment. And then on the air seeder side of things, with an updated technology, like they have air seeders with scales built into them now. Like you used to have to hook a scale up to a little arm that was sticking out and just like weigh to calibrate. And now the air seeder will calibrate as it's running, like on its own. Not calibrate as it's running, but it'll give you like active weights, how many acres you have till you're empty, like on the spot, instead of like knowing how many pounds you put in and then guessing how many acres you have. Like, okay, I can do this many acres with this much left in my tank and I just filled up and that stuff. So there's more technology communicating to the tractor monitors with that. And then, yeah, there's always new tractors with new equipment, new GPS, new monitoring systems, new stuff like that coming out all the time with every brand, basically.
I bet. Yeah, I saw. I think this was a few years ago. Case IH had their like the cabless driverless tractors, which I thought were really cool. They looked like they were straight up the ones from Interstellar that like were like driving around. Those are really neat. Have you seen those out and about?
I think I haven't seen him out and about yet, but I do think I have seen what you're talking about.
Okay. And the John Deere ones, like when they're self-driving, like what are they driving and seating at the same time? Can they plow? Like what exactly can they do and not do?
I'm not sure on the limitations on that. I know that a lot of people run them for tillage just because it's not something that require not that
Mm,
it doesn't require attention, but tillage is one of those things that, you're not going to get plugged up as much. You're not going to have issues with the vacuum. You're not going to have,
yeah.
those kinds of issues. So I know a lot of people are running them for pieces of tillage equipment.
What about drones? Do you use a lot of drones, like whether it's checking fields or just for photography? Do you? I've seen a couple of your videos, and I was like, did she use a drone for that?
Yeah, I use a lot of drones. So I actually crashed my drone into a cattle chute a couple.
Oh no.
But that'll happen. I was trying to, like fly into the cattle trailer, and it got caught up on the chute and it fell down. So, and with the tariffs and everything, like I can't order a new one,
Oh man.
like the actual DJI website. So we'll see what happens for drone footage. But yeah, I do use drones a lot. We use drones to check crops. We use drones to chase cows. We use drones to spray out here. There are a couple people that use spray drones mostly for like CRP ground if they have like some invasive weeds and stuff like that.
Hmm.
They'll get in there with that because it's really sucky to drive a sprayer through that. So if
I
there's
bet
like an
it
area
is.
small enough to justify using a drone instead of a sprayer, because a lot of our sprayers have 120-foot booms, like that's not practical on everything that we could be spraying. So there are spray drones being used. There's drones being used to. My boss just bought one to take NDVI images of fields, so he'll fly over a field to get more accurate images on like where the weed patches are and where the crop deficiency is. So he's been taking those, and
Is that
then
using like infrared or?
I'm not sure what all the cameras are, but I know he can fly over a field that takes a bunch of pictures and then puts them all together, and then it's kind of like a heat map but a growth index. So it's
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that's what we're doing with the drones, and then we also use satellite images to make prescription maps, and that's something that we've been doing for a while. And then yeah. There's a lot of technology in agriculture that a lot of people don't think about. I've had a couple interviews with people that are like, I had no idea you guys use this much technology. And I'm like, yeah, we're not just, a bunch of rockheads out here driving tractors. Like, we have something going on, and it's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. I loved like bringing up the satellite thing to people. They're like, "Wait, like that's the thing," and that's been a thing for years. I mean, you
Yeah.
can see like what crops are growing well in what area, where you need to apply fertilizer, or pesticides, or something like that. I keep seeing. I mean, you know how Instagram and Facebook will like you like something, they'll keep feeding your algorithm that. I liked something, and it was like a bird laser on a vineyard. And I think those look so cool. Have you seen those before?
Uh-uh.
You need to look it up. I'll try to send you one on Instagram.
Okay.
But it's this laser, and I've seen them at a trade show before. But it literally has this green laser, and it looks like the Death Star, and it's just like sweeping the vineyard. And it scares away the birds. It doesn't actually target and like harm the birds. But the birds see the laser, they're like, nope, I'm out. But
Oh,
it's so
okay.
cool. It just looks like this like little mini Death Star on top of a vineyard. It's so neat. I'll try to send you one video.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, but that's cool. And on the drones thing, okay, you said they're good at chasing cows. I feel like there's a story there.
Well, one of the farmers that we consult for will use his drone to like chase cows in the winter out of places that they don't belong. So he'll just like kind of dive bomb with the drone, like hover over them and like little wave to make them move. Because sometimes they're in places we can't get to. So I personally haven't chased cows purposely with a drone, like on purpose. I mean, I've put my drone up and it scared cows and stuff like that because they are very like conscious of that and it will just spook them. But it spooks them enough that a lot of people will chase cows with drones just to back out of a place that they don't belong. So
That's a good idea because they'll usually get places they don't belong. I bet they're like, that's a weird looking bird and it won't leave
yeah,
me
it's a
alone.
weird looking bird that's making way too much noise.
I am. I've been trying to get somebody on the show for years. I think their company is called Parabug, and they are a drone company. and they have like a big old hopper on the bottom with beneficial insects, and they'll fly
Oh,
over like a strawberry field or something and drop them, and they'll eat like the aphids or whatever is destroying the crop. And I think that's so cool too.
yeah.
Like they're just like basically dropping like a small army of insects on that crop.
Yeah, I think that is cool. I'd love to see more of how people with, like, I don't know, I guess edible acres, like the fruit and vegetable industry use more of that technology because they use a lot more technology than we do. Like, we have stuff in the
Mm,
tractors and everything, but they have to monitor so much more stuff and, like, make a consumer friendly product right off the bat. Like, we harvest our crop and send it to the elevator, and they do whatever they want with it from there. So, like, I don't feel like we're as connected to the consumer, but when you're more connected to the consumer and you're making more like environmentally and technology friendly choices with your crop, like that's something that I would love to learn more about, and it's something that I have been learning more about with like the trips that I've been on lately. But yeah, definitely a big difference though.
yeah, and that's a really good point that I haven't thought about. Like the row croppers are kind of a little bit more removed than like like you said, like more edible crop farmers. Like, but again, I would say that those farmers are probably impacting our lives more on a daily basis for like countless things. I mean, whether that's like ethanol in our cars or all the bread we eat, everything else. Like, I think that's really interesting because there's a bunch of different products. I mean, also Coke. I mean, literally all the corn syrup, everything like that. So yeah, I think that's a really good point though. So let's move along. I wanted to ask you more about social media. You've met a ton of people thanks to this social media thing. You've met people like Zach Johnson, and you have now become like BFFs with somebody we had on recently, Kate Thornton. And I think I like following you both because you both are so knowledgeable about agriculture, and I think that is so cool to see.
Thank
So,
you.
I mean, how fun has it been to kind of build relationships while you're sharing your story on social media?
Yeah, I think building relationships with people with a similar mindset, especially like people that understand the social media game and people that are willing to help build you up in that space, is really important. Because when I started, like I said, I didn't know anyone existed, and now that I know all these people exist, I have so many more resources at my fingertips, and like they also have those resources coming from me. Like, it's a beneficial group and network of people that have all had similar experiences but are all experiencing it in their respective ways, and I think that it's really eye-opening, and I wouldn't have guessed, like, I would have known half of the stuff I do based off of my relationships with other people. So I think that's been
Mm.
the coolest part about it, is just the experiences that other people have that they're willing to share, and just the fact that we're all trying to advocate for the same thing at the end of the day in our own ways and in our own spaces, because everyone does something just a little bit different, and that's perfect for what we're trying to do.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's cool. I mean, you're educating about what goes on at scale with row crops. Emily, or not Emily, Kate is doing apples and pears and all that stuff. Like, and I mean, Zach is kind of doing a little bit what you're doing, but he's in Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
Have you been to his farm?
Yeah, I've been a couple times. So he was one of my first visits. So he was like
Nice.
the reason my YouTube took off, and he's been just a huge example to a lot of people within the industry, and he's like the OG. He's like the
He is
father
definitely the OG.
YouTuber. So that's been
He,
cool.
he is. I feel like was he the first like YouTube farmer to hit 1 million viewers or subscribers? I feel like he
I
was
think
maybe.
so. Yeah, because it was a big deal. Because everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, he did it!"
Yeah, and then there's so many, and now I don't know if you know. Do you know Field Rose here in Florida?
Yes. Yep.
So he's funny. Him and his twin brother do a great job showcasing peanut production, and I've been meaning to go and visit him because he's like an hour away from me.
Yeah.
But he does like I mean Zach Johnson kind of shows you what goes on daily at the farm, but then he at Field Rose, they kind of show you. I mean, it's a little bit what goes on in peanut production, but then it's also like all the calamity that goes into it. So I think their voice on it is really entertaining. So Zach's, so's yours, but they're all different, which I think is fine and fun.
And I think the difference is needed because it's just, you can't, there's no way to be able to relate to every single consumer just with what you share on one page. And like the more we're able to relate to consumers in different profiles and different, aspects, the better, because we're all so almost far removed from agriculture that it's like we need everybody to help out.
Yeah, that's true. I heard somebody, man, I wish I could remember who it was. They said something along the lines of like, we don't need to talk at consumers, we need to talk with consumers. And it's like, be very careful how you word, what you're talking, how you're talking to the consumer, and you don't want to feel like you're talking down. You want to talk like I don't know. It's a lot of information we're trying to give them because we want to give them the background information on like why crops, why GMOs are grown, why we spray them with pesticides, and like they have great questions, but we need to make sure that we're not talking down at them and we're talking appropriately. But we're also like giving them all the background. It's a very delicate balance, as you probably know.
Yes, it is very delicate because I used to, well, when I started my page, I was like, oh, you guys are so dumb for not knowing this. And then I was like, wait a minute, because I need to be humble and remember where I came from. Like, I didn't know half this stuff when I started. So I always try to put myself in their shoes again and like, okay, how can I say this in a way that is going to help them understand without making them feel stupid? Like, how can I relate this to something else? I have a video from seeding still that I haven't posted that's like relating a tractor hooked up to a drill like a pickup to a trailer. Like a lot of people
Mm.
understand hooking up a pickup to the trailer, like, and some people don't know that a drill or an implement disconnects from the tractor and you can hook it up to other things. Like when you start thinking about how basic the knowledge about agriculture is that people don't know, it's so easy to make content because it's like, how can I make this relatable? Like, how can I make this something that the general public understands?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I was thinking when you were talking about the row crops and how you'll keep like the trash, the leftover, like keep it on top. I automatically thought about my garden because this year for the first time I put mulch over it for the first time, and it did so much better. It usually dries out, but I had like the plants had survived a lot better. They produced a lot better. I didn't have weeds. I didn't have pests. So like and I mean, you only get this through experience, but you're able to relate it a little bit more. So
Exactly.
that's a really good analogy, like the truck and the drill, kind of like how that works with the tractor. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I need to finish that video and post it. There's so many videos I haven't done yet. So I get so many videos and then I get all excited and then I get the spurt of motivation, then I just stop. I'm like, I'll do it another day.
Well, I mean, it's hard because you're a farmer, you're doing all this stuff. It's a hard job. But then also you like want to make content on top of that. So it's like, I'm sure it's a hard balance between like, doing the job and you're like, crap, I should have recorded that because it would have made a good video.
Exactly. And I've been working for an independent crop consultant this year and it's been my first year with him. So that makes it so like how much I jump around is intentional because I want to learn about everything, but I think I'm where I want to be for a while. But when I'm learning, I always like to go through it once and then like really start making content about it because I don't feel like I can speak on something that I don't have at least a little bit of experience on. Like I can't just be a echoing chamber of what's coming out of my boss's mouth. I want to have it be relatable and be something that I have personally like internalized and understood before I'm sharing it because then people will come out in the comments and like expose me for not knowing something. But yeah, that's so the first year that I've been with him, I've almost worked with him for a year. It'll be next month. I'll be with him for a year. But like between the soil sampling, crop scouting, making recommendations, putting everything together, like it's just been a lot to learn. So when I'm learning, I tend to not make as many videos.
Mm.
So that's where more
Yeah.
of the B-roll comes out. It's just a pretty video of a tractor going through a field.
Hey, now B-roll is good. B-roll, I mean, B-roll is very entertaining. I wanted to get because I know like I don't even know what you call them, but like the hour-long videos where it's just like the ambiance. I want to get a drone and find some. You know what? I might have to ask Field Rose to do this because he's really close. Just follow him with the drone for like 3 hours and just have that one video, a whole B-roll video, and that would go super viral because that's super
Yes,
popular.
exactly. No, people love to watch that stuff.
It's like Craig Adams is like a really famous hiker on YouTube, and I watch his videos all the time. Like it's just him hiking in like I don't know the Alps or the Rocky Mountains, and it's just like beautiful. You just sit there, zone out, just watch it for a little bit. I feel like agriculture would be really good for that too. That would be
Yeah,
really fun.
just being able to like see it in motion and without stopping because I always choose the action shots, but if you just see the boringness, well, the the boringness
Yeah, quote unquote.
like oh, you come to the end of the row, this is where you lift up and turn around because people don't understand that, and the more you watch it, like the more you see the forest and the woods and what people do when they're in like tricky situations and what people do when they're in this situation, the more you understand just like basic human stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. That'd be cool. I've always wondered. I mean, I'm sure driving a combine this might be a little useful, but I've always wondered like, can somebody make a business where you have a drone but it gives you like a up top view of your combine. So if you're like getting kind of close to trees or something, you can see 360 degrees around you, and you can like drive around that way. I've always thought like, is there a business there or not? Because I know,
I don't think so. I know like
okay,
pickups they have it like the cameras that are like
yeah, exactly like
yeah.
that, yeah.
And I'm sure that that could probably somehow work out. But most of the time when you're around trees and stuff, we don't really struggle with that issue. So I've never really thought about that. Like we don't have a lot of trees in North Dakota, so like there's a couple trees in the field, but most of the time your header sticks out far enough to the side that your cab isn't in the way of the tree. And if it is, they just like they also take that into account when they're seeding. So they're not going to plant crops somewhere that they can't make it with the tractor. So most of the time, if they can make it there with the tractor, you can make it there with the combine.
Mm.
It
Okay,
is a valid
that makes
problem.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a few trees here in Florida, but again, not a farmer, so I wouldn't know. But no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's cool. What's it been like working for the crop consultant? Like, what crops have you worked in? What have you learned? What are you doing next with it?
So I started with them during soil sampling. So we will go out and take zone samples of all the fields. That's when we take the satellite imagery. We turn it
Mm.
into basically red, yellow, and green zones, and then we'll go and sample from there. But what we're looking for is nutrient differences throughout the field so that we can make fertilizer recommendations based off of the results that we're getting from each field.
Hmm.
And then that's what we do during the winter is make all those like prescriptions, fertilizer recommendations, and then in the spring we'll export all of that data into the farmers' tractors, and they can actually variable rate apply the fertilizer onto the field. So they can put like
Cool.
if this big red zone only has like 3 pounds of nitrogen per acre, and this green zone has like 22 pounds of nitrogen per acre, we're gonna variable rate that because you're not gonna need as much in the red zone because the crop isn't growing as good anyway. So we're just trying to like doesn't necessarily save the farmer money. It just saves resources and puts it like where it's needed instead of just dumping a bunch of flat rate across the whole field that isn't going to need it in certain areas. So we can really dive deeper into that with the soil samples. And then right before they go out in the spring with the tractors and everything and go to plant the seed, we will go out on four-wheelers and see what kind of weeds are coming up so that we know like, okay, this is the size of the weed, this is when we're probably going to need to spray it, this is the chemical that we might need. Because there is a lot of farmers hire us because they don't have, not that they don't have time, but a lot of farmers are busy, right? Like they do check their fields, but it's nice when you have someone that's dedicated on a four-wheeler in the middle of the field, in the middle of the season in your busy time. Because a lot of guys will be like, oh, I totally forgot about the size of weeds. Like and the smaller and the more accurate sizing you hit those weeds at, the less resistance you're going to develop. Because if you wait till they're super big or if you spray them when they're too small, then they just develop a lot of resistance. So we're doing that before the tractors go in. And sometimes you don't even need to spray. So if we go out in a field and we're like, yeah, there's no weeds here, you're fine. Or if there's only a couple here and there, like, yeah, you're fine. And then when the plants are emerging, we will go through and we'll do like stand counts. So we're evaluating how good of a job the planter did. So like in wheat, we'll go out and just count how many wheat plants are within a foot. And then in corn, we'll go and check like, okay, there's 10 corn plants here. How many are skips and how many are doubles and how many, are emerged but not really at the same stage, because that all comes down to how good of a job the planter's doing. So we'll do stand counts, and then we'll check for diseases, we'll check for insects, we'll check for, more weeds as we're driving through the field doing that. And then like right now, we're getting ready for harvest, so it's kind of a slower time for crop consultants because when the crop is like mostly there, we only need to check like once a week-ish. But most of the time in the spring, like I think this spring I spent, I don't even know how many hours on a four-wheeler. It was a lot because we have a lot of acres, but it's been really fun. And now we're looping back into the soil sampling time, so it's all just a big cycle of like, okay, what can we do to improve the farmers' input decisions? What can we do to manage the weeds, manage the diseases, increase yield at the same time? So it's been a really fun learning experience, and I really enjoyed being able to see all of the different equipment that our farmers run and operate. So it's been a good opportunity there, and it's a little different than just like working in the shop and just working with like one brand of equipment. So I've really enjoyed it. I'll probably be here for a while, so it's been fun.
No, that's good. And I'm sure there's a lot of added pressure there, like the farmers kind of trusting you to come up with a game plan. And you've got to make sure you identify the right weed killer, that it doesn't affect the crop. I'm sure there's a lot of pressure.
Yes, there's definitely mistakes made all the time.
Really?
Well, there was one time I think I like you can go out and scout, and if the crop isn't emerged yet, like you can still spray Roundup for weeds. There was
Hmm.
a field that was like really bad. There, all the weeds were coming up, and we knew this, and it was also sandy. And when I went and scouted it, there was nothing emerging. Like
Hmm.
there was no wheat coming out of the ground. And then by the time they sprayed it, there was weed out of the ground, and they sprayed Roundup, and wheat is not Roundup resistant. Everyone loves to
Hmm.
say that, but it is not because if you spray Roundup on wheat, it kills it, and that means it's not resistant. Anyway, by the time they sprayed it, it was just like a little bit out of the ground, and then they called and were like, "You said it was not out of the ground." I was like, "That was 4 days ago." Like, but it ended up pulling through. Like, there's a point where if the growing point is under the ground, still like it should be okay. If it gets sprayed, it might like flash it a little bit. But yeah, sometimes there's mistakes. Sometimes guys put chemicals wrong in the tank. Sometimes they, don't spray a field. Sometimes they don't spray on time. All the stuff happens. So
Yeah, it kind of shows you how precise it has to be. Like the precision agriculture thing is real. Like you got to make sure you spray at the exact time, the exact rate, on the right plants with the right chemicals, because if not, you can have a problem.
yeah, we're not just out here dumping chemical jugs on the corn plants. Like there's
Yeah,
also
I know.
precise mixing. There's precise timing. There's like if it's too hot in the day, you can't spray. If it's too windy, you can't spray. It has to be just right. If there's an inversion that morning, like you shouldn't be spraying there because then your chemical just floats up and floats off your crop. And so
Yeah. I mean,
there's a
even,
lot
I
to
mean,
it.
oh yeah, I mean, even kind of relate to it. Like my lawn here is awful, and I've been trying to fix it a little bit. But I mean, even going off of that, like if I spray weed killer during the summer here in Florida, it's going to burn the lawn. If I spray it close to raining, it's going to wash it off. And it's like the same thing is with agriculture, except on a much larger scale,
Much more expensive scale, yes.
much more expensive. Oh yeah, like I can buy a bottle like I don't know Roundup for $15 and it works pretty well, but like Roundup for a couple thousand acres is going to be a little bit more expensive than $15.
Yep, it's a little bit expensive.
Just slightly. So one last question I wanted to ask you. I think you're going to have a great idea on this. What can we do to get more young people involved in agriculture? Can we show them all the avenues they can go? Like, what do you think?
I think that just making it fun again, like finding, capitalizing on finding what you're passionate about and going from there because like I'm not passionate about sitting in a desk and doing farm insurance all day, right? Like
Mm,
I'm not interested. But if there's someone that is interested in agriculture that doesn't want to work outside, like there's plenty of options there and I think just like sharing those options is important because there any job that you want is available in the ag industry and like there's always going to be job security because no one's working like not that no one's working in agriculture but there's a lot less people that are employed by agriculture than there was 50 years ago, right? So just knowing like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, and then knowing like your community behind it and just being involved and like I wish that there was more people that knew what it felt like to just go sit in a field, and just
yeah.
like listen to it. But it's sad because people don't do that anymore. Or like just the rush of harvest or the rush of seeding. And even though like it's a very intense industry to be in mentally sometimes, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for young people especially. Like there's good opportunities to invest. There's a lot of hard work. There's it's just a very rewarding industry to be in and you can have a lot of fun with it. Like there's people involved in ag with like coding and computer work
Oh
and
yeah, 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 yeah.
working from home or like working from offices like just like they would do in any other industry. So there's definitely a lot of options and I think that people knowing that is important because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to just go drive a tractor, I don't want to just go throw bales all day. Like you don't have to do that to be involved in something that's, feeding everybody. So
Yeah, I really like that because I mean, like we were talking earlier, there's satellite imaging technology, there's drone technology, there's coding, there's so much stuff. And Kate said something very similar whenever we did our interview. Like kids, well not kids, like young adults our age, like they want to do a career in something they're passionate about. And agriculture offers that a lot of the time. If you want to be outside, if you want to connect farmers and consumers, you can do that. And so it's one of those really cool industries where there's so many different job opportunities. Like I always tell people we're more than cows, sows, and plows, and you probably have heard that being an FFA.
Yeah.
And like, there's so many different career opportunities for you.
Exactly. I wish people would dive deeper into it and like take what they're, if you're passionate about working as a secretary at a dentist, like be passionate about working as a secretary at a farm office or something, or at a co-op, because you're going to find so many friendly people in the industry too. Like there's friendly people everywhere and there's grumpy people everywhere. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that agriculture definitely gets intimidating for a lot of people because it is an older industry and there's a lot of people that have a problem with working with older people just because they're like less sensitive to common issues now, and I think that causes kind of a barrier, but it's just like whatever, but I think it's fun.
Yeah, a little abrasive, or they can be a little abrasive, but I mean that's in
Exactly.
everything. I mean, you just kind of
Exactly.
go with the flow. Um, all of that. You mentioned that you wish people could just go and sit in a field. I have a B-roll idea for you with the drone. In the
Okay.
middle of harvest, you should have the drone follow you, and then like right kind of at the cab of the combine, and then just have it there. Turn off the combine, walk out, and just kind of look off in the distance, and just kind of sit there and like kind of shake your head, be like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah," and just the
That
drone
would be
watching
some
you, maybe
good
at sunset
stuff.
or something.
Yep, that would be a good one. I will have to make because I'm not gonna be in a grain cart for harvest this year. Like I'll be taking videos. I'll be like everywhere, so I probably will be able to put together a more like thought out video because I can be everywhere all at once. So
There
that
you
would
go. That would be fun. That would be
be a good
cool.
idea. Good
Yeah.
ideas.
Well, thank you. Well, Emma, this has been so fun chatting with you, virtually meeting you. If people want to follow you, if they want to see what you're doing, where can they go?
You can find me at Ag with Emma everywhere. So basically, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X is where I'm at. So that is where you can find me.
Sweet. I will link all that below. I'm trying to get back in the TikTok. I know the ban was going to happen. Now it's not going to happen. Now they're going to make some sort of like American app. So I might have to get back on TikTok.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. I just post everything everywhere, and I just don't care what it says.
Hey, there you go. That's smart. The shotgun approach. Just
Yeah,
boom.
the post and ghost is my deal.
I like that. The post and ghost. I used to do that on TikTok. I was on it like 2 years ago, I think, and I would just post and just ghost it. So I like
Yeah,
that. The post and ghost.
definitely the best option there.
There you go. Well, Emma, thanks again. Best of luck. I think what you're doing is awesome. Can't wait to follow your story even more. And yeah, good luck this harvest season and everything else.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a blast to talk to you, and hopefully we can meet somewhere someday.
Yeah, I want to be active and do more farm shows, so I will definitely let you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be perfect. You should definitely go to National Farm Machinery Show. That's in Kentucky.
When is that? I've been meaning
In
to look that
February.
up. When is it?
The February, it's most of the time it's around Valentine's Day. Like sometimes it's on Valentine's Day and sometimes it's not, but it's around that week of like the teens in February.
Okay, gotcha. I'm going to look that up now. That would be super fun.
Yep.
Well, cool. Thanks again, Emma.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.